2 years ago, me and one of my friends took a 3-day trip to Cedar Point. We did it all. Went to both the theme park as well as the water park Cedar Point Shores. We stayed at Hotel Breakers, had Fastlane for 1 day, and really just had the trip of a lifetime. So today, 2 whole years later, I'm finally sitting down and taking the time to analyze my incredible trip to this park. This is my complete review of America's rock and roller coaster, Cedar Point.
You are clear and out of here.
Going to Cedar Point really starts before you get to the park. I know this part is called Causeway, but for me at least, the Cedar Point experience started as soon as we got off the airplane. There were ads everywhere in the Cleveland airport advertising the park, and that's just the start. It's a 1-hour drive from the airport to the park, and we were gonna rent a car, but that's a long story, so we got an Uber. About 40 minutes into the drive, we started to see Cedar Point signs everywhere, and then we turned onto the actual Causeway. The best way to describe it is it's like a platter of all the best coasters in the world right in front of you. I will admit, I was screaming my head off in the Uber, but my thought was this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Even if an Uber driver thinks you're weird, enjoy it. So dear Uber driver, if you're watching this video, sorry. Now back to Cedar Point. Like I said earlier, we were staying at Breakers, so we got to drive all the way around the entire peninsula because the hotel's actually on the other side. This was when I really got a sense of how massive the park actually is. Really quickly, I just need to say, driving around Cedar Point as a coaster enthusiast who had watched videos of this park his whole life and I was finally there, it was like a dream come true. And there's no way to describe what I felt. It's just something else. So we checked into our room and went straight to the Magnum Gate to get in the park for the last hours open. By the way, I say Magnum Gate because there are 4 different entrances to Cedar Point. To rank them really quickly, 1 is Magnum, 2 is Gatekeeper, 3 is Valraven, and 4 is Windseeker. Anyways, what did we do once we got into the park? Well, what does everyone do when they go to Cedar Point? We rode some... Like I said, this is the park's big thing. I mean, sure they have other things, but this is America's rock and roller coaster. It's home to 16 different roller coasters, but when I went, 2 of those didn't exist, so we're just gonna say for the sake of this video, they have 14. The top 3 are insane. You have Maverick, the ride that ended the Coaster Wars. While it may not be that tall, it's one of the most intense coasters in the world, and you can't forget it was the first to implement Blitz, meaning it led strides like Pantheon or Velocicoaster, basically making the coaster industry what it is today. You also, of course, have probably agreed by most people to be the best coaster in the world, Steel Vengeance. It lasts forever, yet somehow seems to end so quickly. There's not a single dead spot. It has the most airtime of any coaster in the world, and driving in and out of the structure makes it probably the best night ride out there. But it's not the best, because rounding out the big 3 is Millennium Force, basically the grandfather of all coasters. Is that a good way to put it? I mean, it was the first coaster over 300 feet, the first full circuit coaster to go over 90 miles an hour, and overall just one of the greatest rides in existence. If you want to know more about these big 3 coasters, I have individual full in-depth reviews for all of them already on my channel, which you can watch after this. But you have to remember something. The big 3 isn't all that's here. No, you have 11 other roller coasters. I think the best way to do this is if I just rank all them. Last place is Wilderness Run. I guess it holds its credit for being the first Intamin, but like, it's for 2-year-olds. 13 is Woodstock Express. It's another family coaster, but it's still fun. 12 is Cedar Creek Mine Ride, pretty boring. 11 is Corkscrew. All I can say is ow. 10 is Blue Streak. It's a fun, timeless Woody. 9 is Rougarou. I ate so many bugs on this ride. 8 is Magnum. You either love it or hate it. I'm kinda in the middle. 7 is Raptor. It's fun, it's so loud. 6 is Gemini. This coaster really surprised me. It's just fun. 5 is Valraven. I probably had the single best experience on this coaster on the last day of my trip than any other coaster ever, but that's a story for another day. 4 is Gatekeeper, another smooth and fun coaster. Now back to the big 3 we talked about earlier. Maverick is in 3rd, and then if I can be honest, I really don't know what's number 2 and what's number 1. I think Steel Vengeance is the best, but it's really close and kinda just depends on the day. Alright, as you can tell, this park pretty clearly has the best coaster lineup in the world. Everywhere you look, there's a world-class coaster, but like I said earlier, that's not the only thing to do. There's a ton more to talk about, starting with... Alright, this section's gonna be a little shorter because we didn't get on too many flat rides here, but the ones we did go on are really good. My favorite was Power Tower. It's an S&S tower complex with both a shot ride as well as a drop side. It's not the tallest drop tower in the world, but standing at 300 feet is definitely the tallest I've ridden. We also rode Max Air, which was a fun pendulum ride, Windseeker, which for some reason kind of freaked me out, and then lastly a giant S&S scream and swing called Skyhawk. If you want some tamer rides though, you have a giant wheel, pipe scream, and then a ton of other basic flat rides like a pirate ship, carousel, and some others. Alright, now I want to talk about something that made our first day at the park probably the best day at a theme park ever. I get that this is expensive, but if you're going to Cedar Point, I would say go all out and buy it, especially if you only have 1 day here. Cedar Point's one of those parks that it's always slammed no matter what. So even if you have multiple days at the park, if you don't get Fastlane for at least 1, you're probably not going to get on everything you want. I would say the perfect trip to Cedar Point is 3 days with Fastlane for 1, and funnily enough, that's exactly what we did. Another thing, don't waste your money on just Fastlane. Go all out and buy Fastlane Plus, because the normal one doesn't get you on any big attractions, and in my opinion, it's just not worth it. So just get Fastlane Plus. You will have to still wait for a few rides, mainly the big 3, but it'll never be over 20 minutes compared to the multiple hour waits you'd have to go through normally. So if you're doing the trip of a lifetime like I did, just get a Fastlane Plus. If you're going to Cedar Point for multiple days, then I think you kinda need to stay at Hotel Breakers. It's a little pricey, I know, but it really just elevates your trip to that next level. Breakers is built steps away from the Magnum Gate, it has tons of dining options, 3 different pools, and I think most importantly gets you into the park 1 hour early. If I'm being honest, going to TGI Fridays at midnight for no reason was about just as fun as being in the park. Also, seeing some of the best coasters in the world right outside your hotel window is crazy. Like waking up, opening your blinds, and then just seeing like Valraven outside of your window gets you so excited for the day ahead. You also have the added bonus of being able to leave the park and take a rest anytime. And with Cedar Point being so massive, you kinda need it. So just stay at Hotel Breakers. Again, I know it's pricey, but it's so worth it. Alright, I'm gonna be honest, I don't care or remember what we ate. I do know some standouts where the barbecue place Backbeat Q, the grilled cheese place Melt, and then like Chick-fil-A and TGI Fridays, but do you really care about that? Like, legitimately, we ate frozen yogurt by Gatekeeper for dinner for our last night. You come to Cedar Point for the coasters, not the food. Now, time to review the other park on the peninsula. This is Cedar Point's water park. It's fine, but nowhere near the level of the theme park. It had a fun mat racing slide, a cool dueling tube slide, and then some fun drop slides, but then again, I'm a coaster enthusiast, not a water slide enthusiast, so I didn't think too much about it. We only spent half a day here, and that's kinda all you need. It's fun, but nothing special. My trip to Cedar Point was the best 3 days of my life. I could talk about the coaster lineup, food, or everything else all day. The park is the best park I've been to, with 2 of my 3 favorite coasters in the world. It was the place where I made so many memories with my friend, and it's one of the best placements of any park I've ever been to. If you like roller coasters, theme parks, or just any kind of thrill in general, this is the place for you. Cedar Point is really something else. It was one of the only parks I've ever actually felt sad to leave, so for a final score, I'm gonna give Cedar Point a 10 out of 10. I would give it even higher if I could. The coasters, the atmosphere, and most importantly the memories make this my favorite place in the world.